In a quiet town far from the noise of big cities lived a man who many people forgot. His name was Daniel. He was not rich, not famous, and not even very social. People in the neighborhood knew him only as that quiet man who lived alone in the old wooden house near the park. Daniel's life was simple. He woke up early, worked at a small repair shop, and returned home in the evening. He had no wife, no children, and not many friends. But even in his quiet and lonely life, he had one habit that made him different. Every evening before he went inside his house, Daniel carried a small bag of food and walked through the streets to feed the strays. The stray dogs wagged their tails when they saw him. The hungry cats meowed loudly and followed him closely. To many, they were just dirty street animals. But to Daniel, they were family. He never looked away when they needed food. He would kneel down, pat their heads, and speak softly as if they could understand his words. "Don't worry," he often whispered. "I will not let you starve." The strays trusted him. Some of them waited outside his house every night, their eyes shining with hope. Daniel never disappointed them. Even when his own dinner was small, he always shared. People sometimes laughed at him. "Why waste food on animals? They are not worth it," someone once said. But Daniel never answered back. He simply smiled and continued. Deep inside, he knew kindness was never wasted. But recently, strange things had begun happening in the town. It started with the animals. The dogs barked at empty streets. The cats stared at the sky as if they saw something invisible. Birds flew in circles, restless, as if the air itself carried danger. Daniel noticed, but he thought maybe it was just weather changes. Still, a small unease grew inside him. One night, while he walked back from the park after feeding the dogs, he stopped suddenly. There, in the sky above the trees, he saw lights. Not the normal blinking of airplanes. These lights moved differently, fast and silent, dancing in patterns he could not explain. He rubbed his eyes, thinking maybe he was tired, but when he looked again, the lights were still there, glowing like living stars. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, they vanished into the clouds. Daniel stood frozen, his bag of empty food containers in his hand. For a moment he thought about telling someone, but then he remembered. People already thought he was strange. They would laugh, call him a dreamer, maybe even say he was losing his mind. So he kept silent. But the animals did not. That night, the strays howled louder. The cats refused to leave his doorstep, and even the birds in the park seemed restless. Daniel sat by his window, watching the street, wondering if something was coming. The next day, his routine continued. He worked at the repair shop, smiled politely at customers, and returned home. But in his heart, the memory of the strange lights burned like a secret flame. That evening, as he walked through the park with his bag of food, he felt something different. The air was colder, the shadows darker. A strange silence hung between the trees, broken only by the crunch of his footsteps. When he poured food for the dogs, they didn't eat right away. Instead, they looked around nervously, their ears up, their eyes sharp. Even the cats stayed close to him, as if they wanted protection. Daniel felt it too, that invisible presence like eyes watching from the dark. He turned his head quickly but saw nothing. Still, his heartbeat quickened. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice louder than he intended. Only the echo of his words came back. He shook his head, forcing a smile for the animals. "Maybe I'm imagining things," he whispered, though his voice trembled. But as he walked back home, he felt it again, the weight of someone's gaze. From the shadows of the trees, from the dark corners of the street, it followed him silently. When he reached his porch, he looked once more at the sky. The stars were bright, but in one corner, he thought he saw a flicker, a light moving where no plane should fly. He narrowed his eyes, but then it was gone. That night, Daniel could not sleep. He lay awake, listening to the sounds outside. The strays barked at intervals. The cats scratched the door as if wanting to warn him. Somewhere, in the distance, a low hum echoed like machinery hidden in the clouds. Daniel turned to his side, closed his eyes, and tried to calm himself. But deep inside, he felt the truth. His quiet and lonely life was about to change. Something was coming. Something not from this earth. And in that silent darkness, unseen by human eyes, 3 figures watched him carefully. They whispered in a language no man could understand. And as they observed the lonely man feeding strays with gentle hands, their hearts made a choice. This man, this human, might be their only hope. The night after the strange lights appeared, the town seemed quiet again. Too quiet. The streets were empty, and even the dogs barked less than usual. Daniel tried to believe everything was normal. He went to work, returned home, and carried food for the strays like always. But inside, he knew something had changed. Far away from human eyes, above the clouds, something else was happening. A small vessel drifted silently, hidden in the dark sky. Inside it were 3 girls, though they were not human. Their skin carried faint markings like flowing silver lines. Their eyes glowed softly in the dim cabin, reflecting fear and exhaustion. They had been running for days. Their ship was damaged, fuel almost gone, and their pursuers close behind. The leader, a tall girl with pale silver hair, looked at the controls with worry. Her name was Elira. "We cannot keep flying," she whispered to the others. "If we stay in the sky, they will find us. We must land." The second girl, smaller and weaker, shook her head. Her name was Lysa. "But this world is dangerous. The humans may not accept us. What if they hurt us?" The third one, quiet until now, spoke calmly. Her voice was soft but steady. "If we do nothing, we will die anyway." She was Kale, the strongest in spirit, though her body trembled with hunger. With a trembling hand, Elira pressed a control. The ship descended slowly, breaking through clouds, hiding in the cover of night. To the human world, it looked only like another falling star. But to them, it was the beginning of survival. The vessel landed deep in the forest near Daniel's town. The ground shook slightly, but no human noticed. The ship's lights went out and silence returned. The 3 girls stepped outside. The cold night air stung their skin. Their feet pressed into the soft earth, and for the first time they stood on this strange planet. They were tired, their clothes torn, their faces pale. But their eyes were filled with determination. They could not stay in the open. They needed food, shelter, and safety. Elira looked around. "We stay hidden until we know more about this place." But Lisa's stomach growled loudly, breaking the silence. She hugged herself, ashamed. They had not eaten for days. Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. "We will find something. We must." That night, the girls moved silently through the forest, staying in shadows. They heard strange sounds, owls calling, leaves rustling, dogs barking in the distance. Everything was new, frightening, yet strangely alive. And then they saw him. Daniel was walking back from the park, carrying his empty bag. The stray dogs followed him happily, their bellies full from the food he had given. The girls watched from the darkness hidden behind trees. "Look," whispered Lisa. "The animals, they trust him." Elira's eyes narrowed. "Strange. Most humans chase animals away, but this one feeds them." Kale leaned forward, curiosity in her glowing eyes. "He is different, kind." For a moment, they simply watched. The man knelt, patting a dog gently, speaking soft words. His face looked tired, but his smile was warm. Lisa's heart ached. If he can be kind to creatures with no home, maybe he can be kind to us too. Elira shook her head quickly. "No, we cannot trust humans so easily. Remember what happened on the other world." Silence fell. The memory of betrayal still burned in their hearts. They had trusted before, and it had brought destruction. But as they watched Daniel disappear into his house, the warmth in his gestures stayed with them. The girls hid nearby that night, resting under the cover of trees. They were weak, their bodies trembling. Hunger clawed at them, but hope whispered, faintly, maybe, just maybe, they had found someone who could help. Meanwhile, Daniel could not sleep again. He sat near his window, sipping water, staring at the sky. The strange lights haunted him, but even more the uneasy feeling that he was not alone. Outside his home, in the shadows, 3 pairs of glowing eyes watched him carefully. The strays barked softly, sensing something unusual. Daniel looked out, but all he saw was darkness. With a sigh, he closed the curtain. Unseen, the alien girls whispered to each other. Lisa. He could be the one. Elira. Or he could be our doom. Kyle. We will never know, until we take the risk. The night grew colder, but in their hearts burned a fragile flame of hope, and so the lonely man who had always given kindness to the forgotten had unknowingly drawn the attention of 3 desperate souls from the stars. They had arrived. The next morning rose quietly over the town. Golden sunlight touched the rooftops, but Daniel's house stayed dim and silent. He had not slept much. His mind carried questions he could not answer. What were the strange lights? Why did the animals behave as if danger was near? He tried to shake off the worry. Carrying a small basket of food, he stepped outside. A group of stray dogs waited near his porch, wagging their tails, their eyes shining with trust. Daniel knelt, patting their heads, placing pieces of bread on the ground. The cats circled his legs, brushing against him softly. But something was different that morning. The dogs barked uneasily at the trees. The cats froze, their tails puffed up, staring into the shadows. Daniel followed their gaze. The forest behind his house looked still, yet heavy, as if it was hiding a secret. He felt it again, that invisible presence. He sighed. Maybe I just need rest, he whispered to himself. But in the forest, hidden between branches, 3 glowing eyes watched. The alien girls had not gone far. Hunger and weakness kept them close to where they last saw him. Lissa whispered, "He feeds them again. Look how gentle he is." Kale nodded. "It is true. He is not like the others we met before." But Elira stayed silent. Her silver-marked skin glimmered faintly under the morning light. She remembered the betrayal on their world. Trust was dangerous. Yet even she could not ignore the warmth in the man's gestures. By evening, the girls grew desperate. Their energy was low, their stomachs empty. The ship was hidden, but it had no more supplies. They needed help, or they would not survive. Another day. That night, Daniel prepared to rest, though unease still filled him. He checked the locks, closed the curtains, and sat by the lamp with an old book. The strays curled near his porch as if guarding him. Then it happened. A sound, soft, almost like a whisper, drifted through the night air, not from any human voice. It was melodic, broken, filled with strange tones. Daniel froze. The dogs whined, ears pointing toward the back of the house. He grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The cold air stung his face. The sound came again like words in a language unknown. His heart raced. "Hello?" he called, his voice unsteady. "Is someone there?" From the corner of his eye, he saw movement near the trees. Shadows shifting, leaves trembling. He pointed the light and gasped. 3 figures stood there, small, fragile, almost human, but not. Their eyes glowed faintly like moons. Their skin shimmered with strange patterns, silver and blue, flowing like rivers of light. Their clothes were torn, their faces pale, but their gaze held both fear and hope. Daniel's hand shook, the flashlight beam trembling. His first thought was that he was dreaming. His second thought, he was in danger. One of the girls stepped forward slowly, raising her hands in a peaceful gesture. Her voice was weak, but clear. "Please, help." The word was simple. Human. His breath caught. "You speak English?" The girl looked at him, struggling. "Some words. We need food, safe place." Behind her, the smaller one swayed, almost collapsing. The taller one caught her quickly, holding her upright. Daniel's fear battled. his heart. These were not humans. He knew that. Every instinct told him to run, to lock the door, to call someone. But then he saw it. The same look the strays had in their eyes when they were starving. A look of desperation, of silent pleading. His voice softened. "Wait here." He returned inside quickly, his mind racing. He filled a tray with bread, water, and some leftover soup. His hands trembled as he carried it back outside. The strays followed, confused but calm. He placed the tray on the ground, stepping back cautiously. "Eat," he said quietly. The three girls exchanged glances, then slowly approached. The smallest one, Lissa, reached first, taking a piece of bread. As soon as it touched her lips, her body glowed faintly, the silver lines on her skin pulsing like gentle fire. Daniel's eyes widened, in shock. He had never seen anything like it. The others ate too, their bodies responding the same way, weakness fading, light returning. The air around them seemed to vibrate softly, like the hum of unseen energy. One girl looked at him, her glowing eyes softening. "Kind. Human," she whispered. Daniel stood frozen, torn between fear and wonder. He had wanted answers about the strange lights. Now the answers stood before him. 3 alien girls who trusted him enough to eat his food. But before he could speak again, the dogs began barking furiously, staring toward the distant road. The girls stiffened, their glow dimming in fear. Elira whispered sharply in her strange tongue, then turned to Daniel. Her voice was urgent. "Hunters, they come. If they find us, you die too." Daniel's heart pounded. He had only just met them, yet already his life was tangled in something far beyond his world. He looked at the frightened girls, at their glowing eyes, at the animals who trusted him, and he knew his choice would change everything. The night grew colder and the forest seemed to hold its breath. After the first contact, Daniel's heart still raced. He sat inside his small house, staring at the door, knowing the 3 strange girls were only a few steps away, hidden in the shadows. He could not decide if he was safe, or if he had just invited danger into his life. But his mind kept replaying the moment when they ate, the way their skin glowed faintly, the way their weak bodies began to heal. It was not only strange, it was beautiful, almost holy. He looked at the strays resting on his porch. They had accepted the girls without fear. That meant something. Animals always sensed danger before humans did. If the strays trusted them, maybe he could too. Outside, the 3 alien girls sat close together, whispering in their strange tongue. Their silver-lined skin shimmered faintly in the moonlight. Lissa leaned against Kale, exhausted. "He gave us food," she whispered. "No human ever gave without asking for something back." Kale nodded, her glowing eyes thoughtful. "Yes, and he was not afraid, not after he saw us eat. There is courage in him." But Elira remained tense. She stared at Daniel's house with sharp eyes. Courage or foolishness? We cannot forget what happened before. Trust is dangerous. Still, deep inside, even she felt something different about the man. The following morning, Daniel did something unusual. He placed a small basket of food at the edge of the forest, then walked away, leaving it without a word. He did not push them to come out, did not demand answers. He simply offered. The girls waited, hidden among the trees. Slowly, Lissa crawled forward and took the basket. She carried it back, her eyes wide with surprise. Inside were bread, boiled eggs, and even a small apple, Daniel's own food. Kale whispered, "He shares what little he has. That is not the act of an enemy." Elira stayed silent, but her hands shook slightly as she ate. Day by day, this silent exchange continued. Daniel left food. They accepted it. No words, only trust built slowly, brick by brick. One evening, as the sun fell behind the hills, Daniel sat on his porch, tired from work. He looked at the forest and spoke softly as if to the wind. I don't know who you are, or why you came, but if you need help, I won't turn away." The girls heard his words. For the first time, Alira's eyes softened. That night they stepped closer. Daniel was preparing to sleep when a soft knock echoed on his door. His heart jumped. Carefully he opened it, and there they stood. The three girls, weak but no longer hiding, their glowing eyes meeting his. Lissa spoke first, her voice trembling. "We trust." Daniel stood still for a moment, then nodded. "Come inside." They entered carefully, their movements quiet, almost reverent. The strays followed, sniffing them but staying calm, tails wagging. Inside the small living room, under the warm yellow light, Daniel finally saw them clearly. Their clothes were torn, their silver-lined skin glowing faintly. They looked young, but their eyes carried the weight of suffering far beyond their years. Daniel asked softly, "Who are you?" The girls exchanged glances. Alira finally spoke. Her voice was steady but filled with sadness. "We are not from here. Our world, gone, destroyed." Kyle added, "Hunters chased us, across the stars. We ran, until we fell here." Lisa's eyes filled with tears. "We lost everyone. We have no one left." Daniel listened silently. He was no hero, no soldier, just a man who fixed broken things at a repair shop. But as he looked at them, shivering in his home, he felt something awaken inside him. He had always cared for the forgotten strays of his town. Now fate had placed 3 lost souls from another world in his hands. "I don't know why you found me," he said quietly, "but if you need shelter, you have it. I won't let harm come to you." The words were simple, but they carried weight. The girls looked at him, surprised. In their world, promises were often lies, but in his voice, they felt truth. That night, they slept inside his small house. Daniel gave them blankets, food, and a safe corner. The strays curled near them, as if guarding new family. But outside, the world was not silent. Strange aircraft moved in the distance, scanning. Shadows passed in the night sky. The hunters had not given up. Alira stood by the window, watching the stars with troubled eyes. She whispered to herself, "If they find us, he will die too." Yet even with fear clawing at her heart, she could not ignore what she had seen in the man. He had given without asking. He had opened his door to strangers from the stars. And for the first time since their flight across galaxies, the 3 alien girls felt something they thought they had lost forever. Hope. The days passed quietly, but a storm was building in silence. Daniel's house, once lonely, now carried whispers of strange voices and soft glowing lights in the night. The 3 alien girls stayed hidden, speaking little, always alert. Daniel gave them food, blankets, and kindness, but he also knew danger was drawing near. The strays felt it too. The dogs barked at the empty road more often. The cats stared at the sky, their fur raised. Even Daniel felt it, the heavy tension in the air, like the moment before thunder. And then, it happened. Late one evening, while Daniel was repairing, a broken lamp at his desk, a strange sound drifted in from outside. A deep humming, mechanical and sharp, cutting through the stillness of the night. The windows trembled softly. The girls reacted instantly. Alira's silver-marked skin glowed brighter as her eyes widened. "They are here." Daniel looked at her, confused. "Who?" "Hunters," she said in a low voice. "They found us." Before he could ask more, Kale rushed to the window. In the distance, over the hills, faint red lights moved silently across the sky. Too fast, too controlled to be human aircraft. They glided like predators searching for prey. Lissa grabbed Daniel's sleeve, her small hand trembling. "If they see us, they will kill us, and you." Fear struck Daniel's heart. He was no fighter, he had no weapons, no plan. But when he looked at their terrified faces, he knew one thing. He could not let them be taken. "Quick," he said, standing up. "Follow me." He led them to the back of the house, down into his basement. It was small, filled with old tools and boxes, but it was hidden. The strays followed, confused but obedient, as if sensing the danger. Daniel closed the door softly, his breath shaking. Above, the humming grew louder. A red light flashed briefly through the window, scanning the street. The hunters had arrived. Outside, 3 tall figures moved silently, their armor dark, their weapons glowing faintly. They were not human. Their movements were sharp, precise, like shadows with eyes. They carried devices that pulsed with strange energy, scanning the ground, the houses, the air itself. One of them spoke in a harsh, metallic language. Another raised a scanner, and the device beeped. A faint trace appeared, alien energy. They turned toward Daniel's house. In the basement, the girls pressed against the wall, their bodies trembling. Elira whispered something in her language, her voice steady but low. Kale held Lisa close, trying to keep her calm. Daniel paced slowly, sweat on his forehead. He had never felt so powerless. But then, a thought struck him. He remembered how animals always reacted to strangers. Maybe he could use that. He looked at the dogs. "Outside," he whispered, opening the small back hatch. The dogs rushed out, barking wildly, charging toward the hunters in the street. The sudden noise broke the silence. The hunters turned sharply, their glowing eyes locking onto the pack of strays. One raised his weapon, but the dogs scattered, running in every direction, confusing their sensors. Daniel used the moment. He covered the basement hatch with old boxes and tools, hiding it completely. But then, knock. 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 The front door. Heavy, sharp, demanding. Daniel froze. His chest tightened. Another knock, louder this time. Then a voice, mechanical but clear, spoke through the air. "Human, you shelter what does not belong. Give them to us, and you live." Daniel's heart pounded. His eyes moved to the floor where 3 frightened girls hid below, depending on him. His throat felt dry, but he forced himself to speak. "There's no one here," he said, his voice steady though his hands shook. Silence. Then the sound of metal footsteps moving around his porch. Shadows passed across the windows. The humming of scanners grew louder, sweeping across walls. Daniel clenched his fists. He thought of the strays he had fed for years, of every hungry mouth that had trusted him. He thought of the 3 girls who had looked at him with the same desperate eyes. He could not betray them. Outside, one of the hunters stopped suddenly. His scanner pulsed red, pointing toward the basement. He raised a clawed hand, signaling the others. They moved toward the back of the house. Inside, Elira felt the energy shift. Her markings glowed brighter. She looked at Daniel through the hatch, her voice firm. "If they find us, you must run." Daniel shook his head. "No, I won't leave you." Kyle whispered, "Why risk your life? We are not your kind." Daniel's answer was simple but powerful. "Because kindness doesn't choose kind, it chooses need." The girls stared at him, their glowing eyes wide. Outside, the hunters reached the basement door. Their weapons charged, glowing with deadly light. The chase had begun. The night had turned heavy. Outside Daniel's house, the hunters moved with precision, their weapons glowing with silent menace. The strays barked furiously, but their cries only drew more attention. Red scanners swept across the ground, tracing faint alien energy lines that led directly to the basement. Inside, the girls huddled close. Their glowing eyes reflected fear. Their silver-marked skin flickered weakly. They were still too drained to fight. Elira's voice was low, steady, but filled with dread. "They have found us. This place is no longer safe." Daniel stood near the hatch, his fists clenched. Fear tightened his chest, but something stronger rose inside him. Resolve. He had lived a quiet, lonely life, forgotten by most. Yet in this moment, 3 lives depended on him, and he would not abandon them. He looked at the girls. "Stay here. Don't make a sound." Lisa's eyes widened. What will you do? Daniel forced a small smile. What I've always done. Protect the strays. Before they could stop him, he climbed the stairs and closed the basement door quietly behind him. The front door shook, under a heavy blow. Dust fell from the ceiling. Daniel's breath quickened, but he stood tall. His hands were empty, no weapons, no armor, just human courage. The door cracked open, and a hunter stepped inside. Tall, armored in dark plates, its eyes glowing like burning coals. The hum of its weapon filled the room with deadly energy. Daniel's heart pounded. His instincts screamed to run, but he forced his feet to stay. You do not belong here. The creature's voice rasped, metallic and cold. Give them to us. Daniel swallowed hard. His voice trembled but did not break. There's no one here but me. The hunter scanned the room, its device beeping. It moved toward the back, toward the basement. Daniel acted. He grabbed the old lamp he had been repairing and smashed it into the creature's chest. Sparks flew. The hunter staggered back a step, not hurt, but surprised. Daniel shouted, his voice raw. You won't take them. The hunter raised its weapon, aiming directly at him. And then, it happened. The basement hatch burst open. Elira, her silver, skin glowing brightly, rushed forward with Kale and Lissa behind her. Their bodies shimmered with desperate energy, weak but burning with determination. They raised their hands and a wave of light spread across the room, forming a thin, crackling shield in front of Daniel. The hunter's weapon fired, but the blast collided with the barrier, shaking the walls but not breaking through. Daniel turned, stunned. The girls stood behind him, their eyes glowing brighter, their strength fueled by something new, his courage. Elira's voice rang out. You will not touch him. Kyle stepped forward, her hands trembling but steady. She unleashed a small burst of energy that struck the hunter's armor, forcing it back. Lisa, though weakest, added her voice, chanting softly in her alien tongue. Weaving their powers together, the room filled with light. Outside, the other hunters moved quickly, drawn by the energy. They circled the house, weapons ready. The strays barked and howled, running at their legs, slowing them down. Inside, Daniel and the girls faced the first hunter together. It tried to strike again, but Daniel grabbed a heavy iron pipe from the corner and swung with all his strength. The weapon hit the hunter's arm, knocking its gun to the floor. For the first time, the predator faltered. Daniel's chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face. He had no powers, no glow, no alien energy. But he had something else. Unyielding will. Get out of my house, he roared. The girls' energy surged with his words. Their shield grew stronger, their bodies brighter. Together, they pushed forward, forcing the hunter out through the broken door. The other hunters stood waiting, their weapons glowing. For a moment it seemed hopeless. 3 weakened aliens, and 1 fragile human against an army of steel. But something changed. The girls held, Daniel's hands, their energy flowing into him. His body glowed faintly, his heartbeat sinking with their light. Elira whispered, Your courage. It strengthens us. Daniel felt it too. The warmth of their power mixed with his human will, forming a bond stronger than fear. The hunters fired, but the shield expanded, covering the house in a dome of light. The blast struck and fizzled, unable to break through. The leader of the hunters hissed in frustration, signaling retreat. Their scanners flickered, disrupted by the strange human-alien connection they could not understand. Slowly, one by one, the hunters disappeared into the night, their ships vanishing into the clouds. Silence returned. The strays whined softly, tails wagging nervously. The house stood damaged but still standing. Inside, Daniel collapsed to his knees, exhausted. The girls fell beside him, their glow fading to a gentle shimmer. Elira looked at him, her voice soft but filled with awe. You risked everything. For us. Daniel gave a tired smile. I told you. Kindness doesn't choose kind, it chooses need. The girls exchanged glances, their eyes warm, their fear replaced by something else. Trust. That night, in a small house guarded by strays, A lonely man and 3 alien girls stood together, no longer strangers. They had faced the hunters, and won, not with weapons, but with courage and bond. But above the clouds, in the silence of space, more ships waited. The fight was not over. The night after the attack was quiet again, but the silence felt heavy, like the calm after a storm. Daniel's house was broken, windows cracked, the front door half shattered, pieces of furniture burned from the hunters' weapons. Yet inside, the warmth of life remained. Daniel sat on the floor, breathing heavily. His arms ached, his body felt bruised, but he was alive. Beside him, the 3 alien girls rested, their silver-marked skin glowing faintly in the dim light. They were tired too, yet their eyes never left him. Lissa whispered, her voice soft. "You saved us." Daniel gave a tired smile. "I think you saved me too." The strays lay close, tails wagging gently, as if guarding the strange new family. For a moment, the world outside did not matter. But deep inside, all of them knew the truth. The hunters would return. And next time, they might come with more. The following morning, Elira stood near the window, watching the sky. Her eyes were sharp, filled with conflict. She turned to Daniel. "We cannot stay. If we remain, they will keep coming, and you—" She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "You will die because of us." Daniel looked at her steadily. "I don't care. You needed help and I gave it, that's all." Kyle stepped forward. "But we care. You risked everything when you didn't have to. We cannot let your kindness destroy you." Lissa's eyes filled with tears. "We lost our world, our people. We cannot lose. You too." The words struck Daniel deeply. He had lived a lonely life, forgotten by others, yet in their voices he heard something he never thought he would. Belonging. That night, the girls revealed a secret. From a hidden pocket in their clothes, Elira pulled out a small crystal, glowing faintly with blue light. "This," she said, "is a fragment of our world. It holds memory and power. We carried it as our last hope." Daniel stared at it, mesmerized. "Why show me this?" Kyle placed the crystal in his hand. It was warm, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Because we cannot stay. But you must remember. If danger comes again, this will guide you." The glow spread faintly across Daniel's skin, connecting with him. He felt a rush of images, strange landscapes, towers of light, oceans of stars, and screams of war. The visions were overwhelming, yet they carried meaning. He was no longer just a man in a small town. He was part of something larger. He gasped, almost dropping the crystal, but Elira steadied his hand. "Now you carry our bond." The choice weighed heavily that night. The girls could run, find another place to hide, or leave the planet entirely. But every option meant leaving Daniel behind. They sat together in silence. Daniel finally spoke, his voice steady, though his heart ached. "You must go. I can't protect you forever, but I'll keep this safe until you come back." Lisa shook, her head tears falling. "We don't want to leave you." Kyle held her sister close, whispering in their own tongue. Elira closed her eyes, struggling with her own heart. Finally, she nodded. "We will return," she promised. "No matter how far we go, you are part of our story now." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to stop them, to beg them to stay. But he knew they were right. His small house could not fight the entire galaxy. Before dawn, they prepared to leave. The strays gathered near the porch, whining softly, sensing goodbye. Daniel stood with the crystal in his hand, watching the 3 girls step into the shadows of the forest. Lissa turned back, running to him one last time. She hugged him tightly, her glowing eyes wet with tears. "Thank you, kind human. You gave us hope again." Daniel's hands trembled as he held her. "Be safe." Then Kale placed her hand on his shoulder. "Remember, courage is stronger than Fear. You showed us that. Finally, Elira met his gaze. Her voice was steady, but her eyes betrayed emotion. Guard the crystal. One day we will come for it. And for you. And then, with a final glance, they disappeared into the forest, their glowing forms fading into the dark. Daniel stood alone on his porch. The strays pressed close, as if trying to comfort him. He looked at the sky, the stars shining cold and distant. In his hand, the crystal pulsed faintly, a reminder that his kindness had reached beyond Earth. He whispered to the night, "I was just kind to strays," and gained friends from the stars. Far above, in the silence of space, a faint glimmer moved among the stars. The hunters were not gone. The war was not over. And though Daniel's house was quiet again, the story of one lonely man and 3 alien girls was only beginning.